Hi friends, welcome back to our last Harry Potter video. This one has been quite an ordeal, way harder than Yoda or the Stormtroopers. However, we've finished. So today I want to just point out a couple of things before we get started on the video. At round 6, I started making modifications because the Harry Potter hair would not fit on the head I had created. She didn't ask us to be sure and fit it. So I didn't think to do that until like round 13, had to rip it all out because it didn't fit. So I deleted all of the rounds that I ripped out. It would have made this video way too long to leave my mistakes in. So at round 6, you can continue on exactly as the pattern suggests. I've already shown you prior to that how to make the spike stitch. So you would define following the pattern. If that's not comfortable for you, then follow my modifications and you might have to adjust as you go with an extra stitch here or an extra round. If you have questions, it was kind of hard to edit this out. So if you have questions, please leave a comment and I will answer based on your situation. So the other thing I wanted to point out, and that happens, by the way, that happens at around 16 minutes into the video. The other thing I wanted to point out was when we make an extra stitch and flip our work, it creates this V that leaves the room for his scar. So just to keep that in mind as you go, that's the purpose of making that extra stitch and flipping the work. So here we go. Enjoy. All right, after you've prepared your brown yarn, we're going to go ahead and start with the hair. This is our last step in creating our Harry Potter masterpiece. So again, her instructions say to crochet 2, but I'm going to go ahead and make a magic circle because the top of his head is where where we're starting the hair, and I want that circle to close up nicely. So go ahead and prepare for your magic circle. Oh my goodness, I can't even grab it today. There we go. And then we're going to crochet 6 stitches inside the ring. There's 1, 2. It always seems difficult to get started. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and go ahead and pull the paper clip end of your yarn a little snug. We can always come back and tighten that more later. So whatever's comfortable to work with. Straighten out your stitching a little bit. Okay, round 1 is that ring of 6 single crochets. Round 2, we're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around to the beginning, and that will give us 12 stitches when we're done. Those first couple rounds are always so hard. Okay, we're down to our last two, 11 and 12. Round 3, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next stitch and then spike stitch over the next stitch, and we're going to repeat that 6 times and we'll end up with 18 stitches. So coming back to her book, that spike stitch is going to be a lot easier to see if you have your book handy, because she does it in different colored yarn, and she has this on page 11. So the spike stitch is similar to the single crochet, but reaches down to the row below the last, and rather than inserting the hook under the top V, we're going to insert it into the gap right below the stitch. So I'm going to practice this a couple times and then come back. Okay, hopefully this is going to come out very clearly in the video. So you're going to do 2 single crochets in your first stitch. And then in the next stitch, instead of taking the top V like you would a normal single crochet, you're going to reach down to the gap below that V and insert your hook and just do a single crochet. So on the back side, if it were different colored yarn, you could see that this is a much longer stitch. And then we're going to repeat that 6 times. So that was our spike stitch. In the next stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets. And then in that very next one, we've got our V right there. We're going to come underneath that V and do a spike stitch. Once again, we come under the V and do a spike stitch. I'm just going to pause and make sure I have 18 stitches before I continue on. All right, I was one short, so I just need that second single crochet to end round 3. And at this point, I'm going to pull tightly to close up the gap, and I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece of thread and mark my round. When it's all the same color of thread, it's kind of difficult to see where you start and stop, and if you get off a stitch, it may make a big difference on his hair. So to avoid that problem, I'm just going to go ahead and put a stitch in here. I know which round I'm on because I keep marking my rounds off, but I need to know where to start and stop each round. So this should make that a lot easier to see. Doesn't need to be very long, and we can come in and cut it out later. All right, we're ready for round 4, and we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next stitch and single crochet in the next 2. We're going to do that all the way around, and we should end up with 24 stitches. All right, 24 stitches, and round 5 says 2 single crochets in the next stitch and then spike over and then single crochet in the next. So 2, spike, and 1. We're going to do that 3 times and we'll still end up with a few more stitches at the end. 27 for sure. So 2 single crochets in that first stitch, then a spike. Remember, we go down to the gap below our stitch, and then a single crochet in the next one, and repeat the process. Again, I'm going to count and make sure I have 27 stitches. All right, ending round 5, we should have ended with 27 stitches. Round 6, we're simply going to crochet around each stitch. No increase and no decrease. So this time we're going to single crochet all the way around for 27 stitches and then chain 1, and we'll turn our work. Okay, guys, I am just realizing that there is no place that she's telling us to try this on Harry Potter's head. So I'm going to slide that right in the area it needs to be. And I know that as I continue working, that size is going to fit his head. So once again, despite what her instructions say, we're going to need to keep our width big enough to fit around Harry's head. So be sure and measure your head and your hair. Row 8, I'm just going to single crochet around and chain 1. Okay, for my Harry Potter, the next row says that we're going to start stitching 2 together, but I'm not going to because I need my Harry Potter's hair to fit over his head, right? So instead of the decrease on row 9, I'm not going to decrease. I'm not going to chain 2 or single crochet 2 together and spike over. I'm simply going to crochet 2. So I want to chain 1, then back to my V. I want to chain 1, turn my work, and then I'm going to single crochet in the next 2 rather than decrease. And then I'm going to do a spike and continue single crochet in 2, and a spike, and my goal is to get back around to the V without losing diameter. Our last single crochet, I'm going to chain 1, and turn the work. That's looking a lot better, but I'm going to go ahead and try it on. Stretch my work out a little. And mine definitely cannot have a smaller diameter. So I'm going to have to modify her pattern to fit Harry Potter's head. So we're getting close. You can tell that it's still going to come down. We're still going to have more rounds, even on a modification. But that's looking pretty good. He is decreasing from 25 to 20. I can't do that. So I'm simply going to single crochet around. Because the goal here is to not modify her pattern a lot, and I do want the length that her hair gives. So basically, if she were not decreasing the diameter of the hair, she would not do those slip stitches. So we're going to continue to single crochet. So you can see by not using the slip stitch, but simply crocheting around, I've kept my V and I've added length to my hair without decreasing my diameter. So let's go ahead and try him on, try his hair on. Again, I still cannot afford to decrease my diameter. All right, next row. This is where we're going to add our spike stitch again. According to her pattern, we would be decreasing. However, I can't afford to decrease, so I'm going to chain one and turn my work. And I'm going to single crochet in 2. And do a spike stitch in the third and repeat that all the way around. And I don't want my V getting any bigger, so I'm going to go ahead and take an extra stitch here into the V to build that out. I don't want it to get any wider. So I'm fine with it getting longer from the tip of the V because that will adjust when we have it on Harry Potter's head, but I don't need that V to be any wider. So we're going to go ahead and chain that one and try it on Harry's head again. Okay, I think I like it flipped this way because of the angle of this side is a bit longer at this point. You can tell on his it's a bit longer. I'm about ready to wrap up the hair, even though we haven't completed all of the stitches. We're going to have to make it work for the head that we have created. I stretch mine out a little bit in this part. That's one thing about yarn, it will stretch. And again, she does have his hair. Her final few rounds have been decreasing that diameter, but I am not going to be able to do that with mine. All right, she has us continuing to chain one and flip the work. However, I can tell that my V is going to be too wide if I continue to do that, and I need length down the back of his head. So I am going to not do that. I'm going to crochet to kind of close my V up a little bit. I don't want it closed a lot, I just don't want it as pronounced. So I'm going to take around and just crochet. Okay, if I do that, I take that V out entirely, so I'm going to have to back up a minute. And I think this might be a good time. We'll do a chain one and flip it around. So you can see that I've come down into the V just a bit, and I've closed it up so it's not going to be so deep, because we still need this longer in the back so that it's going to fit on his head and have just that bit of V over his scar. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my work and single crochet around. Again, for those of you who want, go ahead and follow her pattern. If you end up ripping it out, come back and view this video again for some tips and tricks for making it work for the head that you have crocheted. Okay, we're back around to our V, and I'm going to try it on, try his hair on, and see if I need to continue on, if I need to close the V up some more, or maybe I have enough length on his hair and we can just call it quits. Oh yeah, I'm liking that much better. I'm not gonna lie, Harry Potter was harder for me than Yoda. All right, I think he's looking pretty good. I want to say I'm not really thrilled with that extra stitch I put in with the white right here. I probably could have left that out. But at this point, I really can't go in and cut it because it would unravel. So it's kind of like quilting. If you make a mistake, at least you know that that makes it uniquely yours. And I will say, you guys might not find that you had to modify that pattern at all to fit the head that you have created. But you could clearly see that it was not going to work for me. All right, I am going to finish up the hair by clipping a long tail, because I'm going to use that to stitch his hair onto his head, and then just slip stitching that end through to tie it off. I'm going to tuck my end where I started the magic circle. I need for the longer side to be on the left, so I'm definitely going to flip my pattern, I think, this way. So for me, this works. I flipped it inside out once again. I have the magic circle tail right here, and I've pulled that as tightly as possible to close the hole up at the start of his hair. Then I'm just going to position the hair on my little guy the way I want it, making sure that that scar shows, because I think my scar turned out pretty well. All right, and then I'm going to take my tail and just insert the needle. And stitch this down on his head with a few stitches around. This is when I'm glad I've left a really long tail. I'm going to go ahead and kind of tuck that up underneath and take my first stitch deep back here above his, well above the rim of his glasses, so that I can pull that in and you don't see the end of where my last stitch was. Then I'm just going to do some well-placed stitches, making sure that when I go into his head, I'm going in really close to where I came out, so it just looks like a blended stitch. Making sure that this is down on his hair, or on his head as far as I want, because my stitch will hold it in place. Couple more stitches to secure Harry's hair on his head, and we will be done with this project. Great job, you guys, if you stuck with me this long. I'm sorry if you had to modify the pattern some. That makes it really tough. I think, again, it's a really cute pattern. I do think that there are some modifications that needed to be made, and possibly that is just the different stitching and the different looseness of stitching that each person does. So as I come here, I'm going to go ahead and stitch that in and pull it over so I can really create a clean edge, and then I'm going to do my tie off over here. I'm just going to push that needle all the way through. Put my yarn so you won't see it. There's our little Harry Potter. Good job, guys. I hope you've enjoyed these videos, and I hope that you'll check out our Star Wars videos. Stormtrooper and Yoda are over on those playlists, so you can check those out if you want to make some more little creations by Lucy Collins. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram. We will be coming up with some other videos, and we'll highlight those as we go on the Instagram account at Craft with Nana. It's been fun visiting with all of you, and we'll see you next time on Crafting with Nana. Bye!